Hello everyone. It's Christmas. And what better thing to do at Christmas than go on holiday to an exotic land? I'm a big fan of IO Interactive's most recent games in the Hitman series, in which John Hitman goes to exotic places around the world and then kills exotic people. But what if we went on holiday to these places and didn't kill anyone? Which Hitman locations would be the best as holiday destinations? Let's find out in this episode of Oxy's Mindhole. See you later. Part 1. Quantitative Touristic Enjoyment. So what is a holiday anyway? According to Wikipedia, a vacation or holiday is a leave of absence from regular occupation, or a specific trip or journey, usually for the purpose of recreation or tourism. People often take a vacation during specific holiday observances, or for specific festivals or celebrations. Vacations are often spent with friends or family. Travelling together creates chemistry? Great. What? Regardless of that nonsense definition, we have to quantify what makes a good holiday. Coming up with metrics to analyse the entirety of a holiday was surprisingly difficult. When I went online to the World Tourism Organization, they weren't particularly very helpful, and on top of that, whenever I googled holidays and holiday ratings, I tended to get hotel star ratings. And I'm not interested in hotel ratings. What I am interested in is the holiday as a whole, the entire experience. After a bunch of searching, I eventually found an academic paper entitled Conveying Tourist Ratings into an Overall Destination Evaluation by a bunch of lovely people at the University of Ca' Foscari in Venetia, Italy. A lot of the stuff in the paper was completely useless to me. There's probability stuff and mathematics stuff in here that I haven't done since A-level and I don't want to do again. But what I did find is a bunch of attributes which I'm going to use as the metrics for my holiday evaluation. We have transportation, safety, cheapness, entertainment, attractions, accommodation, eating and drinking, welcome, services for tourists, accessibility, things to do, and shopping, or the commonly known acronym TUSCIA EUSATS. Each one of these metrics will be given a score from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. As an example, attractions, which refers to historical, artistic and natural attractions, ranges from 1 to 10, 1 being scarce, and 10 being many and assorted. As the self-appointed official Hitman holiday reviewer, I will be looking at 14 of the sandbox levels from the most recent Hitman games. As a small disclaimer, I will not be reviewing either of the ICA facility tutorial missions because I am role-playing as John Hitman and I would not go on holiday to where I work. Part 2. Strict-ish rules for proper scientific evaluation. In order to make sure that this experiment is fair, not biased, and completely focusing on tourism, I have set myself some specific rules. 1. No going into off-limits areas, as long as they are primarily and clearly signposted. 2. No performing illegal actions. There is an addendum to this rule, however. If I can find some alcohol or someone who sells alcohol, then I can break some rules, as I believe this accurately reflects the standard British person abroad. And 3. I am only allowed to use objects a typical tourist would have. So that's coins and muffins. No guns, no explosives, nothing like that. So now we have some basic rules, let's move on to Part 3. Going on a holiday. I'm going to go through each of the levels in order, starting with Paris. As I arrived into this Parisian party, I was greeted by the doorman and the guards were quite pleasant to me as I walked around. I've given them an 8 overall for welcome. I've rated Paris a 9 for transportation. It's a major city with good transport links, and the metro is one of my favourite train systems, once you get past the smell of pee from some of the stations. In terms of safety, Paris scores an 8. There's loads of security around, but in some places I've noticed wandering cables near water. They're an accident waiting to happen. I've rated Paris a 4 in terms of cheapness. This party is incredibly expensive and VIP only. The only way I actually managed to get upstairs was by finding a pass someone had left in the bathroom. How convenient. In terms of entertainment, Paris scores a 7. There's a bar, some gardens, and a fashion show going on. Not necessary to everyone's tastes, but I enjoyed it. The level scores a 5 for attractions. Sure, there's a lot of art, but it could have been higher. All of the museum areas are off limits to the public during the duration of the fashion show. I've scored a 7 for accommodation, as Paris has some reasonably decent hotels, although after having spent so much money to get into this party, I've had to cut costs and skip on the continental breakfast. I went into this map expecting the food and drink to be pretty decent. It's Paris after all. However, I was quite disappointed by the cleanliness of the bar. There were drinks everywhere which could be easily spiked or poisoned by someone dangerous. I spent a great deal of time looking at all the canapes and I was pretty happy until I noticed they were serving the oysters without ice. So they've probably gone off at this point. In the end, I've scored Paris a 4 for food and drink because of these horrible, horrible messes. There was very little in terms of services for tourists, so I've given them a low score for that, and they've also got a low score for accessibility. Not only is this party extremely exclusive, but there's a distinct lack of ramp for wheelchair accessibility. I've given Paris a middling score for things to do, as if you're not into fashion shows or smoozing with rich people, there isn't much to do here. There was also this weird expensive auction thing going on, and that really confused me. As for shopping, Paris scores a 4. I could buy the memoirs of a man called Helmut Kruger, or take part in that expensive auction. That was about it. I'm giving Paris a general review score of 7, which comes out at 6.23 as an overall official tourism rating. Moving on to Sapienza, a holiday location that I really loved. It's an idyllic seaside town that scored really highly in cheapness, entertainment and things to do. The accommodation was pretty decent and there were plenty of shops. The accessibility here was pretty good too. There were lots of ramps for the relatively hilly area. Safety was also pretty high, except you have to be very careful of aggressive pigeons like this one. This location is perfect for a little getaway to Italy, but it's important to plan ahead for visiting though. Sometimes a location is used for big budget filming, but if you're very lucky, you'll be around when there's a festival. The festivals are amazing, there's lots of singing, lots of dancing, lots and lots of food, it's wonderful. I've given Sapienza a general evaluation of 9, which averages out to an overall score of 7.46. Marrakech is a beautiful and vibrant place to visit. I've given it a 10 for shopping because of how much stuff there is to buy at the market. In terms of things to do, I've given Marrakech an 8 because there were plenty of shops to visit, decent street food, a shisha bar, a regular bar, and a fortune teller, which I think is pretty nifty. Marrakech suffers in accessibility, transportation and safety, partly due to the crowds, but also because there is a large section of the city blocked off by the army because of a protest. Overall, I really enjoyed my time in Marrakech, and I've given it a general rating of 7, which averages this lovely destination out at a respectable 7.23. We now go on a trip to the Hitman Hotel in Bangkok. Unfortunately, as a visitor, the only way to get to the Hitman Hotel is by boat, which isn't great for both transportation and accessibility, but if you can get there, you're in for a lovely experience. The restaurant is magnificent. I've scored them a 9 for the range of delicious dishes on the menu. The accommodation is top tier. The room was beautiful, the minibar was fully stocked, and there were mints and complimentary champagne as I arrived. I'm genuinely impressed by the speed and thoroughness of the hotel staff as well. As you can see here, they were very quick to answer my call.
The minibar is not being replenished. Please see to it at once.
Look at that! Absolutely spectacular. Bang on time.
I'm here to restock the minibar, please.
I've given the Hitman Hotel a 2 for cheapness, because apparently some band has hired out an entire wing of the hotel, and the prices for the other rooms have just become massively inflated. I've also given low scores for things to do and attractions, as the hotel and its gardens are pretty much all there is available to me. Overall, I've given Bangkok a general score of 7. It's a nice place, but there's not much to do. The final score averages out at 6.08. Now we move on to Colorado. Colorado is well known for its stunning national parks, the Mesa Verde, and skiing, so I went into this level pretty excited for what kind of fun I might have. I arrived by car to the holiday destination, then approached the locals to see what there was to do in the area. Turns out there's some sort of highly trained militia, and they attacked me on sight. I scored Colorado a 1 in every aspect apart from cheapness. I don't think anyone should ever go to Colorado. Based on my lived experiences, it's a very dangerous place and you don't want to go there. After receiving several bullet wounds in America, I decided my next destination should be the Gamma Private Hospital in Hokkaido, Japan. I've always wanted to go to Japan, so I leapt at the chance, not only to stop myself from dying, but to immerse myself in the culture. The Gamma Private Hospital is only publicly accessible via a cable lift or a medical helicopter, so unfortunately I had to give it a low score for transport. However, in terms of accessibility, the hospital is filled with ramps and stairs are very rare, so it scored very highly. I scored the facility an 8 for food. The sushi was excellent, but I was promised fugu in my pamphlet and apparently they're no longer serving it due to a recent accident. The spa facilities and hot spring were second to none, and the Japanese garden was lovely to explore during the cold winter afternoons. I also docked the hospital's safety points because they rely on an AI to police most of the day-to-day goings on, and without my robe I couldn't get out of my room. All in all, the facility is pretty pricey, but worth the stay if you can afford it. I give Hokkaido a general score of 7. For a hospital, it's pretty great. That averages out at a reasonably decent 6.62. I'm a massive fan of The Lord of the Rings, and when the ICA asked me to go visit New Zealand, I jumped at the chance. I was really excited to see Hobbiton, so I jumped on a plane and found an Airbnb that would host me for the week. I was somewhat disappointed when I found out the only way for me to get to the house was via a self-piloted boat, but the thought of having a pint at the Green Dragon Inn just really spurred me on. However, what I experienced that night can only be described as the Airbnb from hell. I got to the place, I collected the keys from under the pot like the owner told me to, I checked out the room. It seemed alright apart from the weird garish paintings, then I got ready for a good night's sleep by browsing Twitter on my laptop. It was only then I noticed this large convoy of cars coming up the drive. It looked to me like the owner had double booked the place, which was pretty embarrassing. I wasn't going to let that get in my way, however. I'm sure whoever just arrived would be reasonable, so I went down to say hello.
Hello. Excuse me. I made a reservation for 2 days. Mr. Tobias Reaper.
Then they started shooting at me! I have given New Zealand, or more specifically Hawke's Bay, mostly 1s across the board. The apartment would have been pretty decent if it wasn't for all the angry men with machine guns. The weather was absolutely terrible and I had an awful time. I've given the place a general score of 1 because not only did I end up going back to Hokkaido to get treatment, but I also didn't get to see Hobbiton. In the end, that averages out at a not so nice 169. I had the pleasure of visiting Miami during the annual Global Innovation Motor Race. I'm not really that into racing, but I was excited to get some sun and have a bit of fun in the city. The transportation was pretty decent as it is a major city, but all the crowds definitely hampered accessibility. There was quite a lot of things to do as well as part of the innovation celebration. Whilst I was here, I was very excited to try out the food. I love a good street food burger, and I was really excited to— ooh, hello, beer! Oh god, I feel sick, I've got to go to the toilet. Excuse me, what are you doing in there? Excuse me, sir. Oh, shh, quiet, shh. Ooh, a thing. I never heard that. Ooh, Sea Life Centre. Yes, follow the fish. I'm going to go find the fish. I'm going to go find the fish. They're in here. It's not off limits, it's fine. Hello, gentlemen, would you like to see some fish? There's some fish. Why are you shooting me, you piece of shit? I'm going to punch you in the water as well. Where your trunk is go in the water. And I'm going to go this way. Oh, it's Jaws! Florida Man! I love Florida Man. Excuse me, Tito Watts, get me a golden ticket to heaven. After sobering up a bit, I found a VIP pass in my pocket, so I went to check out the VIP section. That area was a pretty awesome experience overall. I met a bunch of race car drivers, had a few more drinks at the bar, and watched some of the racing itself. I then had a really nice jog along the waterfront, and then I ended my day at the Kronstadt Innovation Centre, where I was warmly welcomed by their new line of fancy robots.
Hello, sir, and madam.
Technology. What will they ever think of next? Overall, Miami was a bustling and vibrant place to visit, but not somewhere I'd really go on a holiday specifically. I gave it a general rating of 6, which averaged it out at 7.23. Shortly after leaving Miami, I went on a backpacking trip to Colombia. Before I left, I checked the UK Foreign Office for travel advice. They advised against all non-essential travel to the majority of the country due to terrorism, strikes and curfews, but also stated, and I quote, "Despite high levels of crime, most visits to Colombia are trouble-free," so I felt like I'd be fine. I packed relatively light, and apart from the flight, I found most of Santa Fortuna quite affordable. There was an okay-ish hostel I could stay in, and a reasonably cheap local bar where I could wind away the evenings. I really enjoyed going on walks in the rainforest and taking in all the scenery, and I met quite a few other backpackers along the way, which was pretty awesome. It's important to keep your wits about you whilst you're here though. I'm pretty sure there's some kind of drug cartel operating out of the area, and there's quite a few dangerous plants and animals that could cause you problems if you're not careful. The piranha are exceptionally bitey. There was quite a lot of stuff to do, exploring the rainforest, meeting the locals, expanding my mind with the shaman, and immersing myself in the local goings-on. As an able-bodied man, I had quite an easy time getting around, but I'm giving the location a low accessibility rating due to the dirt roads and uneven ground. It's not really somewhere I'd recommend for someone who might have problems navigating. I appreciated getting away from the hustle and bustle of the city and seeing the rainforest. Whilst it wasn't the most comfortable of trips, I'd highly recommend it for the overall experience. I'm giving Santa Fortuna a general review of 8, which averages things out at 5.85. Mumbai was the next location on my travel list, the second biggest city in India. I rented myself a flat in the Chawls and I was pretty happy with it. The owner even left me some complimentary food. I spent most of my time exploring the city on foot, as the roads were blocked by a car crash. I also had the pleasure of taking part in a guided tour of the slums as well, which was really informative. The crowds were somewhat overwhelming and I'm pretty sure there was some sort of organised crime syndicate operating out of the area, so I've given the city a low safety score. Mumbai offered some of the most exciting shopping experiences of my travels so far. I even tried my hand at haggling.
How much are these?
Ah, my friend, you have chosen well. Now, we have the best prices here. What do you say to 140 rupees per running meter? Does that sound fair? No? Nothing? Ah, I can see you're a man of refined taste and a skilled haggler. My kids will only eat rice tonight, but it's yours for 105 rupees then. It's a deal, yes? Wow, those eyes are really burning into me. It's like you're just looking straight into my soul. Okay, final offer now. 90 rupees. 90 rupees per running meter. That's my own cost. I really can't go lower. Still no. Your haggling skills are something else. I'll give you that much. The silence. It's terribly unnerving, to be honest. It's like you're just dead inside. Like there's a vast, empty space where your emotions will normally reside. I can go no lower than 75 minutes. Really, take the offer. Please take the offer.
It's a deal.
Ah, good.
It was pretty fun. The food and drink were also wonderful. I was blown away by all the flavour experiences available to me. All in all, I've given Mumbai an overall score of 7, which averages out to 6.54. Our travels now take us to Wilton Creek in Vermont. I wasn't really sure what to expect from this expedition, as it was very much a picture-perfect suburban area with very little to do, but I tried my best to enjoy myself. The house I rented for the weekend was pretty decent, and I got invited to the local barbecue, which was great. They had beer.
Excuse me, sir. I don't like the cut of your jib. Bow! Haha, yes. What the hell are those? What are they? Excuse me, do you have muffins? I want a muffin. I'll take this one, and this one, and this one. And then you have one. Take that. Ducks! You want a muffin? There you go. Here's another muffin. Muffins for everyone!
As a well-versed travel expert, I can now say that Wilton Creek is not really the best place to go on holiday. It's basically a standard American neighbourhood, and I got really bored. I gave it a general rating of 2, which gives us an average rating of 4.08. Whilst I was in Vermont, I met a nice old man and we talked about my holiday project. He gave me a free ticket to a party on a secluded island in the North Atlantic. I had to take a boat to get there and the weather made the journey very treacherous, but when I did get there, I was rather impressed by the show they were putting on. I felt very safe on the island, there were lots of guards around monitoring things, and there was a surprising amount of strange things to buy, like luxury private apocalypse shelters. They were a bit out of my price range, but still really interesting to look at. I was a bit put off by the whole burning money thing they seemed to be doing, so I went to get a drink at the bar.
Wrench to the face? Yes. Oh, give me your clothes, little man.
Somehow I managed to get hold of a fancier outfit, which let me get upstairs, and they had some very cool stuff up there. It looks like they'd managed to put together an exhibition of some of the world's rarest artefacts. I was very impressed. All in all, I gave the Isle of Scale a general evaluation of 4. It was a little bit highbrow for me, which made me feel a bit uncomfortable, so the average for this map is 5.15. Next on my list was New York, a city I've heard some pretty good things about, but my experience there was not that stellar in the slightest. I arrived and was initially impressed by the location. It was quite grand, lots of chandeliers everywhere, but I soon realised that the only thing I could do there was open up a savings account. This was very far removed from all the stories I've been told by other people who visited New York. I'm afraid this place gets a 1 for its general evaluation. I'm incredibly disappointed. I'm not shocked to tell you that the average score for this place is a dismal 3.92. After the letdown that was New York, I hoped that my final holiday experience would be a bit of a palate cleanser, and it did not disappoint. Haven Island was extremely expensive but worth every penny. It scored highly across the board for everything apart from transportation and shopping. After arriving by private boat, I was greeted warmly by the staff and given my room keys. My private villa was above the water on a platform. It had a really nice living room, bedroom, private pool, and elegant bathroom. However, I noticed there was a major safety hazard, as there was a trapdoor that I could easily have dropped through if I jumped on it too hard. After getting a little more comfortable, I decided to explore the island. I was awed by how beautiful it was. The waters were clean and serene. In some locations I could see lots of different fish and rays. Speaking of fish, I was slightly disappointed by the food. I witnessed one of the owners visibly retching over a dish that the chef had served them. It feels like they should be serving some more Moldavian foods, particularly curries instead of just sushi. However, the resort's 3 bars were really something else, and they made a lot of very amazing alcoholic cocktails.
Excuse me, sir, do you like fishing? Well, enjoy this fish!
There was also a spa, where I could enjoy not only a great range of massage treatments, but also a dip in the jacuzzi. I spent some time improving myself in the gym, did a bit of meditation, and went for a few long walks on the beach. The amenities available to the guests were remarkable, but I did have one bad experience where I went to the bathroom only to find that someone had pissed all over the floor. Resort guests were also able to take part in free diving lessons conducted by trained instructors, and jet ski lessons. There were lifeguards stationed all around the island as well to keep people safe. I've given the Maldives an overall score of 8. I was very relaxed here, but I couldn't help feel like there was something sinister going on in the background. The average score calculated for this lovely getaway is 7.77. Part 4. The real holiday was the levels we played along the way. So what does this scientific data actually tell us? Firstly, I've got too much time on my hands. Secondly, you probably shouldn't base your holiday choices on Hitman levels. And thirdly, if you are going to base them on Hitman levels, then you should go to the Maldives before it sinks underwater. If you don't have the money to go to the Maldives, then you should consider going to Italy. And fourthly, never ever go to Colorado. It's dangerous, you will get shot, you will have a horrible time. Have a great Christmas. I'll see you next year. Bye! I'm a big fan of IO Interactive's most recent forays into the Hitman series, in which John Hitman goes around the world to exotic places and kills exotic people. But what if the exotic words are confusing and wrong? What if that? What do you think?
I think you fucked the words up.
I did!
It sounded alright most of the way.
It did, didn't it?
Like, where'd you go wrong?
Where did I go wrong? I'm strangling one of my friends in my living room.
On their birthday.
Where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong?